Well, we're going to begin part 6 of the medical, legal, and ethical issues. This section is going to go over right to refuse treatment and advance directives. So any conscious, alert adult who appears to have decision-making capacity has the right to either accept or refuse treatment and or transport, or any part of the treatment and transport continuum there is. So let's say if you have a patient who you are transporting and you're 3 miles away from the hospital and they decide they want out of the ambulance and they are legally competent and they have all the decision-making capacity required by law, then you have to allow them to withdraw, even if there is the potential of death or serious injury. Now, patients like this present us with a great dilemma because things like this can be litigated, and your best defense is your documentation. So make sure you proceed cautiously. And if you do have a patient that does refuse treatment and or transport, make sure the patient understands all the potential risks, benefits, treatments, and alternatives to care. One thing that I like to do sometimes is have someone else talk to the patient. I've had medical control. I've called up and had medical control talk to the patient directly, and I've also had to call supervisors before. And when I was a supervisor, I actually called our service director to talk to the patient on the phone to see if they could convince them to go to the hospital, and sometimes they did. So in order for someone to refuse treatment, they must be alert and oriented to person, place, time, and the event. Must be. And if you're ever in doubt, call medical control and explain what's going on, or call your supervisor. But you have to be oriented to person, place, time, and event. Okay. So if a parent refuses treatment for a child, consider the emotional impact of the emergency. Make sure you take time. Make sure that the parents are fully aware of what's going on. And if the patient is in a life-threatening situation, make sure you call medical control, because you may need to get law enforcement involved, or you may have to get family children services involved. That is, if the patient is in an immediate life-threatening situation. And if you suspect abuse or anything, you have to report that as well. So before you leave the scene, whenever you have a parent or a caregiver that has, or a patient that has refused care, make sure you get a signature on the release form. Make sure that you have the patient or the patient's guardian sign the paperwork stating that they have refused care and that you have explained to them all of the potential risk of refusing care, and you've explained the benefits of accepting care as well. Document all your assessment findings and care, including vital signs, and make sure you put your times down. Make sure that whenever you put down when you took vital signs, you put down the date and the time, and make sure you document names of personnel that were on scene. And make sure you obtain a signature from a witness to the refusal. So you need to have a witness that sees them sign, and make sure you get their name as well. And make sure you keep the release form with the patient care report, and it is filed away in the appropriate location once you get back to your station. So, advanced directives. Advanced directives are orders that specify treatment if the patient becomes unable to make decisions. So if a patient has an advanced directive in place, you are obligated to follow that advanced directive as long as it's a legal advanced directive. And a legal advanced directive is one that has been signed and is on a legal form. A DNR, or do not resuscitate order, gives permission not to attempt resuscitation, but to be valid it must state the patient's medical problems, have the signature of the patient or the guardian, and have signature of at least one physician on it. However, if the DNR is in place and is valid, you should abide by it. So even if they have a DNR in place, you must provide supportive care and comfort care. So just because they have a DNR in place does not mean that you withhold all care from them. You can provide pain management, fluids, oxygen. Let's say they're having difficulty breathing, you can give them a breathing treatment. You can put them in a place of comfort and transport them to the hospital, even though they have a DNR. Okay. Patients may also have healthcare proxies, which is like a durable power of attorney for healthcare, which means that someone's authorized to make their healthcare decisions for them. And this only applies if the patient's not capable of making the decisions. So if the patient is capable of making decisions, then it reverts back to the patient. And make sure you read the document carefully. But if in any time you're ever in doubt if there's an advance directive or DNR in place and you're in doubt of what to do, begin BLS care immediately and contact medical control, your supervisor, or follow your protocol or your company or organization's policies and procedures. But like I said, if you're in doubt, begin BLS and contact someone for help. Well, that concludes this section of the lecture. Next section will be part 7, which will be ethical principles and moral obligations.